And welcome to episode 13 of the Music Crypt with Dan Montgomery. I'm talking to my good friend Dan Montgomery, obviously, today, and we're going to be talking about our favorite drummers. Dan and I each came up with a list of our top 10 drummers, so why don't we let you start off with your list first, Dan?
All right. Well, you know, my list has got a bunch of old drummers on there because I'm an old dude.
Yeah, me too, so we'll see. We'll see if we have any of the same ones. Yeah.
So, I'm going to start with, the bottom of my list.
Okay.
Even though it's not really a list in order because they're all great drummers.
That's the thing. Right? It's kind of how you make a list. It's just I kind of went with my first instinct, who are my favorite drummers that immediately come to my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just kind of did that. I kind of made a list of who I remembered and who I really liked.
Yeah.
And so the first one that came to my mind was Peter Criss.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. That's a good one.
You know, I was a huge Kiss fan. Still am, to a point. Not as big as I was when I was younger.
Yeah.
But he was always a drummer I always pictured in Kiss. And it was like when they replaced him, part of me died.
Now let me ask you about that, because Peter Criss, as a drummer, he does not
get. He wasn't the greatest drummer. He wasn't the greatest drummer by any means.
Okay.
But he was perfect for that band at that time. Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask you, because a lot of people do not credit him as being a great drummer. They credit him maybe even being a decent singer and that, but when you don't see him in the top 10 drummer polls or stuff like that. I can't remember when he ever made the cover of Drummer magazine, but why do you think that is? Just technically, he's not a great.
I think because of what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know, he had a lot of drama going on and stuff like that, and he was a big drinker and stuff, I guess, and so
a big druggie.
That doesn't really help out anything.
Yeah.
And but songs like Black Diamond and 100,000 Years and stuff like that, where he just really, especially on the live album.
Oh yeah, if you go and you look at
was incredible.
If you go to Live 1, look at the drum solo on God of Thunder, that or 100,000 Years. I'm sorry, God of Thunder would be Alive too, but 100,000 Years on a Live 1. He kills it, and I think the other thing, you look at Peter Criss, which is kind of interesting. Of all the guys in Kiss, he's probably the least. He's not really a rock. People tell you he's not really a rock-oriented drummer. He was more into
jazz. And blues, and I think his idol is on my list as well.
Okay, and I also want to mention, while we're talking about Peter Criss, you might be interested in this. I don't know if you're much of a fan of John 5, but he's got a new solo album coming out, John 5, and Peter Criss plays the drums on one of the tracks. I believe it's a cover of the old song Georgia.
Nice.
Yeah, so that'll be a cool thing. It may be his last appearance ever on record or anything. So who's next on your list?
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Who else I got in here? I got Keith Moon on my list from The Who.
Oh, that's an obvious choice. Yeah, great.
And he was just he was a great drummer, but he was a freaking maniac, and it's too bad that he died the way he did.
Yeah,
but,
again, drugs got in the way.
Yeah, but he was an incredible drummer, and I don't think The Who would have been The Who
without him.
Without them.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you look at a guy like Keith, when you say he was a maniac, I mean, real physical player. I dare say even you could call him a showman. He was definitely not one of those drummers just sat in the back of the stage and just kind of kept time.
What I thought was really cool about Keith Moon was able to put out that kind of sound on a 5-piece set.
Yeah, and I think an interesting thing, you look at a band like The Who, they definitely have the songs. It's kind of interesting, Keith Moon was such a big part of The Who sound, but they were able to kind of carry on without him because they still had Townsend and Daltrey,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Who else I got on here? I got Cozy Powell on my list.
Oh, that's another one on my list. Yeah, a great powerhouse drummer.
A great drummer, no matter where he played, what band he played with. He was always great.
And look who he played with. He played with everybody from Rainbow, Sabbath, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Whitesnake. Rainbow. I mean, he was all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, Bill Ward from Black Sabbath.
Oh, that's another one. Yeah, he doesn't get a lot of credit too.
He was really heavily influenced by jazz.
Yeah, another one.
And you can hear that in the first 2-3 albums of Black Sabbath when he's just doing his thing.
Oh yeah.
Really cool stuff. Sabbath.
Yeah.
There's a song on, I think it's, jeez, I can't remember the album. Never Say Die, maybe?
Okay.
But it's called Swinging the Chain.
Yeah. You talked about that before, yeah.
And that's Bill Ward singing that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then after I got done checking that out, I found out that he has like a little band going on, the Bill Ward Band.
Yeah, in fact,
I was checking that out, and you know, he like plays the drums a couple of times, but most of the time it's a whole bunch of other musicians.
and I think there's even a solo album he put out, if I'm not mistaken, called Ward 1 from like 1987 or something that features Zakk Wylde of all people on it, like doing some of the solos.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's he's on my list for sure.
Okay.
And then a dude named Max Roach. You ever heard of him?
No, what band's he with?
He was just an old time drummer.
Okay.
He was back with like in the time of Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa.
Oh, those are the guys. Those are the guys that influenced the legendary guys that we grew up on. You know.
Yeah. But these guys are like playing with like Duke Ellington and stuff like that, kind of like jazz drummers, but just an excellent drummer. I was just checking out some of his stuff today, and there was this like a drum festival they had. It was like back in 1974 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so they had Elvin Jones. Geez, who's the other dude? Art. I can't remember his last name. Blake Hill or something like that.
Okay.
And
Interesting. Yeah.
and then they had Buddy Rich and Max Roach there, and they were all just playing.
Yeah, Buddy Rich.
It's incredible to watch.
Buddy Rich, people should look up on YouTube like old videos of him because I mean, he was the guy, like one of the guys that influenced Carmine Appice. He was a real physical player, one of the first showman drummers ever.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's a drum battle. I think I emailed it to you.
Okay.
They had Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich.
Yeah, those are the guys. I mean, from back in the day.
I think it was like maybe on like Sammy Davis's like variety show.
Oh wow.
Because he's in between them.
Yeah.
Dancing around, doing his thing, and these two are just laying down some of the greatest freaking drums I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And it's so cool because like once again they're on a 5-piece set, everything's laid flat on the floor.
Yeah.
You know, and these guys are putting out just incredible amount. And it's just wow. Very cool stuff. And then Ginger Baker.
Oh, he's one. Yeah, definitely.
Can't forget him.
Crazy.
If you want to see something really cool, check out their last live performance when they were all still alive.
Oh wow. Okay.
When they were over at Royal Albert Hall.
Wow. Yeah.
They do Toad.
Okay.
And Ginger just kicks ass on it.
Yeah. Wow.
It's very cool. John Bonham.
Yeah, he
Can't forget
definitely.
him. On my list. You know, he's just what can you say?
I mean,
everything they played was a drum solo for him.
I mean, I really think Led Zeppelin made the right choice, not really carrying on after he died. I mean, he was such an important part of the band that the band knew that it was that huge of a loss.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then who else I got here? I got Gene Krupa. We talked about him.
Yeah.
Neil Peart.
Oh, definitely.
He's just YYZ.
Now here's the thing with Neil Peart. Okay, probably a lot of people listening to this don't even realize there was a drummer before Neil Peart.
Neil on their first album, I think, right?
Yeah, Neil Peart's like the new guy for the last 40 years, and he's sadly no longer with us. But he was such a big key ingredient in spite of not being an original member because once he joined, he was a guy that wrote all the lyrics, and he's a drummer. Yeah.
And plus, he opened up all of that. I mean, that whole gigantic percussion section that they had. He brought so much to that band just for
what he did. Yeah, I mean,
the percussion section. And then you look over at Geddy Lee, and he's standing there behind a Kirby One keyboard. He's got a bass hanging off of him.
And he's singing lead,
at the same time. It's like these guys were tremendous musicians.
And Alex Lifeson, he's in the middle, kind of just doing his thing on the guitar. But it's amazing that you realize. I mean, I'm sure that like Alex and Geddy could probably write their own songs now, but I think it would alter kind of the Rush sound because Neil's no longer there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the number one dude on my list, of course, is Buddy Rich.
There you go.
Well, much.
Yeah.
He's like you say, he's a showman, and for just being a cool drummer, he's gonna be one of the greatest.
Yeah.
And we can't forget the guy who just passed away was Joey.
Oh wow, yeah.
From Slipknot.
Oh yeah, Joey Jordison. Yeah. And then
I didn't really get into his stuff.
Yeah.
But he was a crazy talented drummer.
Again, he's one of those drummers that you didn't have to even be a Slipknot fan. I mean, let's just talk about that for a minute. I'm not a huge Slipknot fan myself, but I know who these guys are just because of their image. I mean, you see, I can't tell you how many magazine covers and stuff like that I've seen them on. Or who are the two guys in the band most people know? Corey Taylor, the singer, and Joey Jordison. They're like the most popular members for whatever reason, you know? Yeah, it's just a fact.
It's too bad he was young. He was only like in his 40s.
Yeah, and they never really came out with the official cause of his death, which kind of makes me wonder why, you know? Yeah. And, okay, well, I got 10 on my list. Let's go down. This is kind of interesting that we have, like, I think only one common drummer on our list. So mine at number 10 is Robert Sweet, the drummer from Stryper. And I'll tell you why I include him. He's one of these guys. He's a really flashy kind of showman type of drummer. But he really like thinks about his playing so much. I was reading recently on Robert Sweet that when Stryper, like in the early days when they first started doing their headlining shows, he would go in and he'd look to figure out where he's going to play, put his drum set, and he plays it from a certain angle so that people in the audience can see him as opposed to kind of being hidden in the backstage like most drummers. So he's really thinking, and he come up with this way of like how he twirls his sticks and everything. So he's one of these guys that really puts a lot of thought and into it's more than just playing the song. He's really a showman. Are you much of a Stryper fan, Dan?
Not
really.
So much, really.
Yeah.
I kind of remember when I was younger growing up, we're in a band trying to play, and I'm pretty sure, and I'm not exactly 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that in the town we were playing in, Stryper was playing in.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, what's interesting about Stryper, like when they were really glammy.
They were just starting out,
right? Yeah.
They had their striped suits.
Yeah. And what's funny is...
And that was it.
They were kind of really glammy and kind of had the kind of a pop-oriented kind of hair metal thing going. But if you listen to what they're doing now, the newer music they're putting out the last couple of years, they're much more of a metal band. They kind of gone the other way, and they're not so glammy now. Now, number 9 on my list is legendary Ian Pace from Deep Purple. I mean, you really can't go wrong with Deep Purple. And Ian Pace, besides Deep Purple, people may not know he was in an early version of Whitesnake because. Right when Coverdale left Deep Purple, that's when Deep Purple fell apart initially, and he took John Lord and Ian Pace with him. So Ian Pace is another one of those just powerhouse drummers, I mean, you look at what he did like on stuff like Burn, or even Stormbringer, powerhouse drumming.
Yeah, for sure.
And then number 8 on my list is Alex Van Halen. I mean, yeah, you look at like a song like Hot for Teacher. Look what he did on that. I mean, sadly, when people think of Van Halen, they think of Eddie Van Halen, but Alex Van Halen, he's quite a powerhouse drummer. Have you ever seen him do like a drum solo? He used to do that thing where he'd bang the gong and he'd set it on fire. So again, he's another one of these showman guys, which I really like. And then you mentioned Peter Criss on your list. I'm a huge Kiss fan too, but the drummer I included on my list was Eric Carr. Were you at all Eric Carr fan?
Yeah, Eric Carr was cool. I liked pretty much all their drummers they had.
Yeah.
Were good.
And what's interesting about all their drummers is they were all great lead singers, great showmen. I mean, even like if you go back to the very first Kiss album, like Peter is trading lead vocals like with Gene on Nothing to Lose and Black Diamond and all those other great classic tunes. So these guys were much more of a drummer. And I felt the need to include Eric Carr because not only does this year mark the 30th anniversary of his passing, I mean, he's sadly been dead longer than he was ever in Kiss, but of course we remember him for Kiss. And he's one of those guys, do you ever hear anybody talk about Eric Carr? I've never heard anybody say a foul word about the guy. All you hear is what a great guy.
Nobody.
And then if you look at, I don't know if you've ever seen that video they did for God Gave Rock and Roll to You. That's the very last thing Eric Carr did, and from what I understand, he played his heart out. I mean, that was a wig he was wearing in that, and it was like so important for him to do that video. And all the guys like Gene and Paul, I heard in interviews talk over years about, man, he was sweating, he was in bad shape, but he played his heart out. And when you realize and you watch that video, what a great performance that was. That's the last thing he ever did, and he really gave his heart for rock and roll, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I got let's see, let's see, number 6 is Tommy Lee. Again, I include Tommy Lee because I mean, he's a great showman, great drummer. He can write songs. He can do a lot of things. And when you consider, like, you know, going upside down and stuff, and doing the roller coaster and all that, he's a very inventive guy.
Oh yeah.
And Tommy Aldrich, just because he's from, you go all the way back to not just Ozzy and Whitesnake, but Black Oak, Arkansas. He's been around for years, and another powerhouse. I seen him play with Whitesnake, and man, the drum solo was one of the best parts of the show, and he just kills it on the drums. Now, number 4, I got Cozy Powell. For obvious reason, another powerhouse drummer, and died tragically young. But you know, go back to Rainbow, Whitesnake, you know, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. He's done a lot of great stuff. Now, number 2, I'd like to get your opinion on here. I got number 2 on my list is Albert Bouchard from Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh yeah. Excellent choice.
Now, and I included this because I've had the opportunity to interview him twice now. Super cool, nice guy. But I thought it was important to include him, not just because he's the original Blue Oyster Cult drummer and played on all those great classics, but I don't know if people realize how involved he was with writing the songwriting of all those Blue Oyster Cult hits. And if you look at, he's on all the big hits. He's on all the you know, the songs that were big hits were during his,
like some background vocals and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he even sings lead. See, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. So there's part of the sound of the band.
Yeah, and that's why since he's been out of the band, it sounds a little different because, and that's why again I include this guy because he's much more of a drummer. And in interviewing, he's telling me, you know, I sat down and I helped the guys, you know, kind of with some of the arrangements for the songs. So. Typically, drummers aren't. There's of course a few exceptions, but drummers aren't typically involved a lot in the songwriting. So I thought he sings lead, and then he's got a great new solo album out where he sing and lead. And so I thought this is a guy that kind of can do it all. And in talking to him, it's amazing if you watch any even recent videos of him like playing the drums or anything. He can also play like on a solo album besides playing the drums. He says he's got another drummer playing on some of the tracks. He says I sing all the songs on my solo album. I play guitar, I play bass, I have other people come in and do other things. So he's a multi...
He even showed up and did like an appearance on the newish Blue Oyster Cult album that they played out last year.
I think he had his brother Joe and some of the Blue Oyster Cult guys come and play on his album. And what you might be thinking of is he's also now the drummer in the Dictators with Ross the Boss.
Because when I was watching something, it was like one of the videos.
Oh, what it might be is he was telling me.
I'm pretty sure he was like playing a cowbell.
Okay, yeah. What that might be from is he told me that him and the guys are like made up and they're really good friends now. And he says when they're in New York or he's around when they're playing, you know, he'll go and join them like as a special guest. But
oh yeah, so he must have just showed up and then they had him in a video then.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. But yeah, so. He was another cat I thought very important to kind of include, and then it's interesting when I've interviewed him and talked to him. Like, not only do you watch him play the drums and stuff in these videos and stuff we're talking about, or you listen to how he plays on his album, but just talking to the guy, he's just got such an energy that he's so enthusiastic about all his music, and it makes me excited. You know, just talking to him, and the thing is. I guess that I'm getting it. And then I come to find out this guy is like 74 years old and he's still out doing what he's doing. You know, touring at that age. And he's like, I think I'm gonna be one of those guys that does it till the day I die. You know. And then number 1 on my list is Carmine Appice. Carmine's a guy that I've interviewed twice now. Super cool guy. really fan-friendly type of guy. He's another one of those drummers, a real powerhouse drummer. I mean, he literally wrote the book on drumming. I forget what it's called, but he's written all these books. In fact, he was telling me in one of the interviews, they used to have a thing out here in California called the Tower Records Drum Off. That is a concept he came up with, and they started doing, because he said, they have all these things for guitar players. He goes, but they don't really have anything where they ever showcase drummers. And he goes, he says, my whole approach to playing drums is I want to bring the drums kind of in the front of the stage, basically meaning, okay, he's still in the back of the stage, but any band you ever see Carmine playing, you can't help but take notice of what he's doing, And again, when come to realize, like, he's in Cactus, Vanilla Fudge, Ozzy Osbourne, all these other. He was a drummer for Rod Stewart. He was a co-writer, like, for that song "Do You Think I'm Sexy," which is a big disco hit for Rod back in the 70s. So another guy that is really involved with a lot more than just the drumming. And again, when you literally wrote the book on how to drums, and he was telling me recently, and me and him were kind of joking about this. People always talk about John Bonham and how he influenced all these drummers, which is true. But Carmine and me were kind of joking. Carmine actually came before John Bonham, and Carmine's the guy that actually influenced John Bonham. They went on the road together. And then, being in Vanilla Fudge, like I was reading Vanilla Fudge, they performed on the Ed Sullivan Show back in the day. And whenever you hear anybody talk about the Ed Sullivan Show, you always hear them bring up either the Beatles performance or Vanilla Fudge. So I thought, Carmine's probably, of all the drummers I grew up on, he's probably been doing it the longest. So I really think he deserves to be at number one. Yeah, and then of course, it wasn't Carmine Peace, we wouldn't have his little brother Vinny that plays in Dio and Last in Line and all these other things. But and that's another cool thing. They have together that drum war thing where that started out of as kind of a joke thing, but it's like a contest. They kind of see who can get the biggest response from the audience, but. That's kind of my list for today, Dan. I don't know if you have anything else to say.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I probably should add, you got Vinnie Paul.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was an awesome freaking metal drummer.
Oh, yeah, and we talked about this, I think, before too. But when you think how sadly both him and his brother died tragically young, and I think a big part of why Vinnie died too. I think. Just since his younger brother died, I think it really broke his heart, and he went on living as long as he could. But I think performing for him was probably never the same since Dine was shot on stage.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you just imagine. I mean, it's one thing to go through something like that, but to see your kid brother shot and murdered on stage right before your eyes, that's got to be a tough thing to get over.
And you got to think that maybe like every time he got behind the drum set, that's all he remembers.
Yeah, and then you got that fear, is that going to happen to me, or is that going to happen again?
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, that's definitely a guy that definitely deserves to be mentioned.
Yeah, there's so many other ones, too. Jeez, it's just...
Oh, you know who I missed on my list? Okay, number 3, I had Roger Taylor from Queen. And again, I include him because not necessarily a powerhouse drummer like, say, a Carmine Appice, but he's a real showman. And... initially, who would have ever thought that Queen would be able to continue without Freddie Mercury? Like, I think both Roger and Brian are really great at what they do. They're great showmen. Those Queen songs are like the soundtrack to so many people's lives. Adam Lambert's a decent enough singer, but like Roger Taylor, people might think, oh, he's just a drummer, but he also puts out great solo albums. He's a great lead singer. He's very involved with the songwriting. So just a key guy. Like I don't know if Queen could have done it with just say Brian and John Deacon. I mean Roger and Brian. I think they've got that magic kind of combination, and it seems to be working. And so again, they're living on the kind of Queen legacy, but I think that's their right to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, Dan, I've enjoyed going down the list today. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
Well, no, we're just, this is starting a whole another year of this, isn't
Yeah. I mean, we've been doing this for a whole year, and I guess what we're gonna do when me and Dan do this in about 2 weeks again. We were talking about coming up with a list. Unfortunately, it's gonna be a little past Halloween, but we'll post it as soon as we can. We're gonna kind of come up with a list of our favorite like Halloween type of or horror movies, and I just got this huge book on like all the Universal horror flicks from back in the day. I mean, the classic Frankenstein and Dracula's, all the originals. So that'll be a fun conversation. So thanks for doing this, Dan.
Frankenstein on my show tonight.
Oh, cool. I got this book on Frankenstein, and it's interesting that the original Frankenstein novel came out like 200 years ago. The novel that it's based on, but the movie from 1931 this year is in November be celebrating 90 years.
It's crazy, huh?
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought? But and I was reading too that the makeup artist that they had was this guy Jack Pierce for the original Frankenstein movie in 1931. He's the guy that kind of created the look of Frankenstein for that movie because it was all based on a book, and so they had nothing. He was kind of the one that came up with let's have a flat kind of head and the bolts in the neck, and it's just amazing that because they were just starting to make movies then, so they really are kind of learning as they go, and they really had no idea what they were doing. Just kind of doing
it. Black and white was awesome, just because of the way they could just use what they had. But I think the visuals, even though the visuals are just freaking black and white, I think that they were better than a lot of the color stuff.
It makes it look more authentic. I mean, I'll give you a good example. Like, you were so used to seeing like a show like I Love Lucy in black and white. That my friend he got when they put it on DVD, they had a version where they colorized it. Man, it looked maybe just because I never seen it like that, but it looked different, and I didn't like it. And I think in the classic horror films, black and white it really looks authentic. And a good example of that is I recently got Young Frankenstein. I hadn't seen that in years.
Yeah, that's cool because how they did it in black and white.
Yeah, and the first thing you notice too in that film is how the credits roll at the beginning of the film instead of at the ending. And I understand that's something Mel Brooks did on purpose because he wanted to give Young Frankenstein the feel of the original film. And then he also purposely shot it in black and white to kind of give it that authentic look. And in the film,
got a hold of some of the original equipment.
Oh yeah. I was reading that. And then the thing is too, they were saying that the film company was trying to trick him into shooting it on color. He's like, no, you're not going to trick me. We're just going to shoot on black and white stock. And so that guy was a real visionary. And in fact, I recently did a show on Young Frankenstein. We'll be posting that probably in like 2 or 3 weeks. So that'll be you'll enjoy, I think, listening to that. But we can talk all about that more in 2 weeks, Dan. I'll save it for the show. And you have a good night. You have a good night, my friend, and take care.
Thanks, Jason.
Hey, bye.